Iran launches missiles at U.S. targets in Iraq. Michael Moore goes online to apologize to Iran for the strike that took out Qassem Soleimani. And Covington Catholic School student Nick Sandmann has big news regarding his lawsuit with CNN. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. I hope you're having a great week. There's a lot going on. There's a lot happened yesterday, and I want to give you an update on the situation between the U.S. and Iran and what happened last night. But first, I got to talk to you about Michael Moore, because this guy, along the lines of Colin Kaepernick and Rose McGowan and all these others who just freaked out over the U.S. strike against Qassem Soleimani, Michael Moore jumped into the mix too. Now, keep in mind that Barack Obama targeted many high-value targets during his administration, took them out with drone strikes, and the left didn't say a word. But President Trump does it, and everyone freaks out. Here's what Michael Moore said. He said, this is using Google Translate. He tweeted, "Sir, I deeply regret the violence on our behalf by a man that most Americans have never voted for. Avoid power. A sincere man, Michael Moore, an American citizen." He deeply regrets the violence that was on our behalf, on America's behalf. What about the violence of Qassem Soleimani? This guy is responsible for hundreds of American deaths, thousands of deaths in the region. He is a leader of the biggest sponsor of terrorism in the world. And Michael Moore apologizes to Iran. He also, that was on Twitter. He also went on Instagram and put up another post. I'll put that up on the screen. And part of that translates as, "I want you to not respond violently, but to act bravely instead. We will take care of this in our Senate or at the ballot box, non-violently." I mean, what's going on with these people? This is a major terrorist who just recently killed Americans. We took him out, and the left is bending over backwards to apologize. His tweet sounds exactly like Rose McGowan's from last week when she tweeted this. She said, "Dear Iran, the U.S. has disrespected your country, your flag, your people. 52% of us humbly apologize. We want peace with your nation. We are being held hostage by a terrorist regime. We do not know how to escape. Please do not kill us. Hashtag Soleimani." It's just amazing what these people say. And they completely dismiss what Soleimani has done. And the thing is that it's not just that they dismiss it. It's just that they are so enraged by President Trump. Literally this Trump derangement syndrome, where anything the president does, they have to oppose. And they have to oppose it in the most outspoken, crazy kind of ways. Again, President Barack Obama ordered numerous drone strikes on high-value targets. That's exactly what we did when we took out Soleimani, all right? And Soleimani was directly responsible for recent American deaths. And Barack Obama did that numerous times, and no one said a word about it. There were no protests. There were no apologies. There was nothing like that. If Barack Obama had ordered the strike against Soleimani, the left would be dancing in the streets. But President Trump does it, and it's another story. So now I want to update you on what happened yesterday with Iran, because, again, Soleimani has been messing with the U.S. for a while now, on and on and on. And in December, it kind of culminated. We took him out. So, of course, Iran is going to try and have to save face in the region, in the Middle East. They're going to have to do something. And that's what happened last night. They launched 15 missiles against U.S. targets in Iraq. And here's a report from Fox News. It says, Iran fired as many as 15 ballistic missiles into Iraq Wednesday, officials said, in a major retaliation by the rogue regime after U.S. airstrike that killed Iranian Quds Force General Qassem Soleimani last week. 10 missiles hit the Al-Assad air base, 1 missile hit a military base in Erbil, and 4 missiles failed to hit their targets, according to a U.S. military spokesman for Central Command. responsible for American forces in the Middle East. The attacks unfolded in 2 waves, each about an hour apart. Initial assessments showed no U.S. casualties, a U.S. military official in Baghdad told Fox News. Iranian state television later claimed, without evidence, that the strikes killed at least 80 terrorist U.S. soldiers and damaged helicopters and drones at the Al-Assad airbase. So no Americans were killed, yet Iranian state television, sounds like Pravda from the old Soviet Union, says that 80 terrorist American soldiers were killed. This is the kind of spin they're putting on it to save face in the Middle East, because they know that a serious strike, a real strike against Americans, will be met with some big time response. Here's a tweet from President Trump in response to the attacks. It said, "All is well. Missiles launched from Iran at 2 military bases located in Iraq. Assessment of casualties and damages taking place now. So far, so good. We have the most powerful and well-equipped military anywhere in the world by far. I will be making a statement tomorrow morning." So last night, Sean Hannity had Senator Ted Cruz on his program, and I want to share some of that with you because the assessment, the back and forth between Sean and Senator Cruz was right on. It was exactly right on with not only what's going on between America and Iran right now, but kind of summing up the Trump foreign policy. This agenda of no endless wars, pulling ourselves out of the region so we don't have ground troops forever, but responding when necessary. Again, Soleimani recently killed Americans. Then he upped that to an attack on our embassy, and then more intelligence indicated that he was going to attack again, so we took him out, all right? That's not an endless war. That's not even a prelude to war with Iran, because they back off. They do not want to mess with the United States of America. Let's just say that. So here's how Sean Hannity entered that segment with Senator Cruz.
You don't get to kill Americans like they did at the end of December. You don't get to attack our embassy to kill Americans and our interests abroad. You don't get to be the #1 state sponsor of terror. You don't fight proxy wars. You don't try to get to take over the entire region and threaten to wipe Israel off the map and act the way they're acting without expecting a response.
So great lead in by Sean there. He just kind of went through the laundry list of what Iran and what Soleimani have been doing recently, taking tankers hostage, and the things he mentioned in this clip. It was escalating, and taking him out is what is known as a proportional response. We had to stop this guy because he just kept ramping things up. And Senator Cruz responded this way.
If you look at Soleimani, taking Soleimani out, he was the most dangerous terrorist in the world. The Department of Defense has told us that he was directly responsible for the deaths of at least 603 U.S. servicemen and women. He has directed terror groups across the globe, including Hamas, including Hezbollah.
So yes, it was the proper time to take him out. And then Senator Cruz went and addressed the craziness that in responses that is going on right back here in America. Here's what he said.
When you see Democrats in the media lighting their hair on fire and saying we're headed to World War III, this is hysteria driven by the fact that they hate Donald Trump, because it used to be the case that we could all come together and say that when there's a terrorist who's targeting Americans, in this case Soleimani had just directed an attack on the U.S. Embassy in recent days, that taking out a terrorist targeting Americans is a good thing.
Well, those days are gone. As long as President Trump is president, the left is going to oppose anything that he says, anything that he does, whether it's domestic policy, whether it's foreign policy, or whether it's protecting us from terrorist attacks. They are going to oppose everything he does. And Senator Cruz mentioned the left, the media. I want to talk about the media. I want to talk about CNN, because CNN's Christiane Amanpour had the Iranian vice president for women and family affairs on, and she basically just gave this official an open mic to spew propaganda that went unchallenged and set a tone for how good Iran is and how good Soleimani was. This is on American television. This is what CNN has now become an advocate for the nation of Iran. It's just bizarre. And here's how it started.
The American government, the American president made a serious miscalculation. They made a serious mistake by assassinating, by taking this terrorist action against Commander Soleimani. And I'm sure that they regret what they've done.
A terrorist attack by America against Soleimani. I mean, was that President Mossama Abdikar talking, or was that Colin Kaepernick? I don't know, because it sounds exactly the same propaganda, and here's more.
Iran has been righteous in its positions, in its political, diplomatic stance. And if we have been present in Iraq, it's been on the invitation of the government. It's our neighborhood. It's our security. We're working always for peace and stability.
Wow, there is so much messed up in that clip. I don't even know where to begin. First of all, Iraqis have been protesting Iranian involvement in their government, in their country. Iran and Iraq have hated each other for generations, and Amanpour just lets her speak. And what she doesn't say, what she doesn't tell the audience, is this person that she had on, Mossama Abdikar, was also the spokesman for the hostage takers, the students that held Americans hostage for 444 days in Iran. This was the spokesman for that group. Amanpour didn't mention that. Here's a report from the Daily Caller. CNN's Christiane Amanpour did little to push back on Iranian official Mossama Abdikar's assertion that the U.S. carried out a terrorist action by killing Qassem Soleimani, an Iranian general killed in a U.S. airstrike January 2nd. Amanpour also failed to acknowledge that Abdikar was the chief spokeswoman for a group of Iranian students who held 52 American diplomats hostage at the U.S. Embassy in Iran for 444 days from 1979 to 1981. Abdikar said in an interview in 1979 during the hostage crisis that she would personally be willing to put a gun to one of the hostages' heads and pull the trigger. This is what's going on. This is what's going on in our country and over at CNN. So on that note, there's a little bit of good news coming out of CNN. Not for them, but for us. And that involves the case of the coverage of the Covington High School students when they went on their trip last year to visit Washington, D.C. They were hanging out, waiting for their bus on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and they were harassed. They were harassed, and it was caught on tape, and the media went wild with it because these kids were wearing MAGA hats, and so obviously they were the ones provoking this confrontation, and they were so bad. This is what the media ran with, but all you had to do was watch the full video clip and see that they were the ones who were victims. They were the ones being harassed. They stood there and took it, and the media spun it out of control. Well, of course, the student at the center of all this, Nick Sandmann, the one who was face to face with the protesters, he filed lawsuits, one of them against CNN, and here's the results, and here's the update from the Washington Examiner. So CNN settled a lawsuit with Covington Catholic High School student Nick Sandmann, who was the subject of a year-old viral video. The amount of the settlement remains unknown, but a CNN representative confirmed the suit's resolution to the Washington Examiner. A video from last January went viral, and it appeared to show Sandmann and his classmates taunting a Native American man. Many outlets reported that there were instigators in the conflict, but it turned out not only to distort the actual events that unfolded. The longer video revealed that the students had seemingly been harassed by a group of Black Hebrew Israelite protesters, which had not been seen in the original clip. So rather than looking at the full video, they went with their clip, the clip that promotes their narrative, and they ran with it. And here's more from the Washington Examiner. The suit, which was filed last March, addressed 4 television broadcasts and 9 articles specifically, alleging that they contain statements toward or about Sandmann that are defamatory. It sought $75 million for harm to Sandmann's reputation and $200 million in punitive damages. The CNN accusations are totally and unequivocally false, and CNN would have known them to be untrue had it undertaken any reasonable efforts to verify their accuracy before publication of its false and defamatory accusations, the suit read. So, we don't know what the number is. We don't know how much is going to Nick Sandmann and his family, but there's going to be a payout. The suit is settled. Good for Sandmann, good for Covington Catholic School, and good for exposing the left-wing bias that's going on in CNN and so many other media outlets. Folks, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified, and we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Everly. This is the 13-Minute News Hour. Okay, friends, just a little reminder before you go, and no, this does not count against my 13 minutes. Please hit the subscribe button below and tell your friends. And if you happen to miss our last show, you can check it out right here. And also for great conservative news and commentary, please check out GOPUSA.com. All right, folks, we'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.